We just want to love addicts like Ben did. I was sitting in Bible study with recovering addicts yesterday, and one said something that will stick with me forever and will be our mission statement as a foundation. 1 John 4, verse 19. We love because he first loved us. I truly believe Ben lived this motto every day, no matter if he was in addiction or not.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones who can't.
Hey guys, I'm Werner. I'm the founder of the Benjamin Thomas Werner Foundation, and I am so excited to share these powerful stories with you. I want you to listen really close to each individual story and how it has impacted their life, but not only their life, their family's life as well.
I'm Pastor Dennis Potter, and I'm a survivor.
I'm Leanne, and I'm a survivor.
I'm Jeannie, and I'm a survivor.
I first would like to introduce Robin and Joel and the story they have to share about losing Robin's brother and Joel going to prison.
I'm Joel. This is my beautiful wife, Robin, and we're here to tell you a story. The story we're going to begin with is about my brother-in-law, Chris. Beautiful guy, wonderful guy, musician, great guy to be around, very, very funny. He was in a band in probably the 90s where he got addicted to heroin, and his addiction got a little carried away with him over the years. His sister here can attest to this more than I can. On a daily basis, life was difficult for Chris because most of our lives is an addiction that I can attest to myself revolve around drugs. We never meant for it to be this way. It just started that way one day when you're hanging out with some friends, maybe a little marijuana, a drink here or there. Next thing you know, 5 years went by, 10 years went by, and you wonder what happened. Well, you take yourself back some days and you realize it was that one choice that you made to have that beer, to have that joint. And it will ruin your life. It will take everything away from you. Your respect, your dignity, your family, your money, everything that you love and cherish will be gone. Myself, I'm one of the lucky ones, per se. I went to prison. I got caught, and I went to prison, and it saved my life. My friend Chris, he wasn't so lucky. We're here to tell you that addiction's real. It affects us all in some shape, form, or fashion. It affects our community. It affects our families and everyone around us. My wife lost her best friend to an addiction. It started out just partying. Some of you young people are thinking, oh, that's no big deal, I can handle it. I thought that too. Chris did too. It doesn't always end good.
My brother Chris was the funniest person I ever knew. He was so incredibly talented. He was smart. He was an artist. Played the drums. Like, the only person I've ever seen him play the drums like was Taylor Hawkins from the Foo Fighters. He had friends everywhere we went. We used to live in Iowa when we were teenagers, and we would go to Minneapolis to go see concerts. And when we'd get up there to go see a concert, people would come up and say, "Hey Chris, how's it going?" People I had no idea that he knew, and I was with him pretty much every day of his life. He just attracted people to him. He had so much charm and charisma. And there was just something in him that wanted to stay high all the time. He had a successful business for years. He was married more than once. He had a great life, and he lost it all for a heroin addiction, and he lost his life to fentanyl. Coroner's report said that when he died, he actually only had a trace of heroin in his body, but he had 17 times a lethal dose of fentanyl in him.
It's cost us a lot. We're slowly rebuilding our lives together, but it's been a long, hard journey. And a lot of you don't have to go down this road. I know the old saying is just say no. I know it's not that easy. We want you to be aware that there are consequences. Whether it's prison, whether it's death, but it will cost you, and it will cost you dearly. We thank you for your time.
All right, my name's Daryl, and I'm a survivor.
I am a survivor.
This is Miss Rose and her story about losing her son and how it not only affected his life, but hers and his children as well.
Hi, my name is Rose Postles. 4 years ago in November, I lost my son, Michael, in a motorcycle accident. He was on Adderall at the time, and he'd been battling addictions for about the past year before he died. A lot of it, he said, it was his way to cope from being in Afghanistan and Iraq. He spent 2 tours over there, and it changed him a lot from the way he was before. He had a good heart, and as long as his addictions weren't in the way, he'd do anything for anybody. He had 2 children that were the loves of his life. And I regret that he didn't get to spend as much time as he could have with them, that he left too soon. His son is 5 now. He was 2 when he passed. And he still misses his daddy. We all do. If I could go back, I'd want to find a way to keep him from getting addicted to anything. Though I don't know how I would do it. I do know that it destroyed his marriage, and it destroyed him. He went from being happy-go-lucky to being paranoid over everything. It's just hard to sit there and watch him go through things like this because there's nothing you can do. No matter how hard you try, there's nothing you can do. They have to want to do it for themselves. And that's the hard part, is you can't make them do it. And now we have to watch all the things he'll have to miss with his children, with us. And he's missed deeply every day. He had a lot of people he called friends, but weren't all his friends. Some of them helped him go down the wrong path. So I'd say people should be careful who they hang out with, because that one person could take you down a rabbit hole you can't get out of.
I'm Kim and I'm a survivor.
Hi, my name is Clifford Kennedy. Sobriety date 7/15 to 15, 30 years methamphetamine addiction. It can be done. I'm a survivor.
Next up is Chuck and his story and how it really shows how drugs can take away so many years of your life, but it also shows how you can turn your life around.
Hey, my name is Charles Hollis, 42 years old. I was in active addiction for going almost 12 years. Opiates was my drug of choice, and I really don't know how I got involved in it other than a head-on collision. That was back when I was 28 years old. They prescribed me opiates pretty much right when I started going to the doctor and all that stuff. So, just one thing led to another in my addiction. It wasn't, just right out the gate I was an addict or anything. I basically was doing like I was supposed to, and then eventually one thing turned into another, and then before I knew it, I was a full-blown addict. Spent the better part of that 12 years running from the law, basically going to jail constantly, trying to hide myself. I evaded my family, I evaded my friends, my true friends, and got into a world with the wrong friends. If there's it was scary, the best way to put it. I was afraid of anything that was good in life anymore. So I was basically living to die. Every day is what it boiled down to. Eventually, I realized that my life had turned for the worse. I lost everything, and once that started happening, I segregated myself from people I love, my mom, my family, and eventually I knew that wasn't what I wanted, but I was afraid to try and make a change, because I didn't know how change was anymore. I mean, the information was there, but as an addict, you always make excuses for why you can't do it, or you're going to put it off till tomorrow, or tomorrow never truly comes. I was 39 years old, and I got arrested for a charge that I wasn't even guilty of. And my mom called, or I called her while I was in jail. She asked me if I want her to come get me, and I said no. I think I'd rather just stay here and wait this out. I want to try and just dry up a little bit while I'm in jail. Best thing I ever did was go to jail for that charge that I wasn't guilty of. And instead of being upset because it was a charge that I wasn't guilty of, I just kind of looked at it as how many charges did I get away with before. I finally got in trouble for something I wasn't in trouble for. Spent 30 days in jail. The judge offered me to go to a program that was the Shoulder, which is a very good program. He told me that he was going to put me in drug court, which I chose to do willingly. And I went to the Shoulder for 10 months, and where I spent time working and just trying to establish who I was again. And it's a very humbling experience, going in front of people who have been through and seen and heard, hear their stories, because it's such an important process of getting your mind to be self-aware the way it needs to be. I'm 3 years sober now, so I went through several programs, not because I had to, but because I chose to, for the better part of all three of them. And if there's anything that I can tell anybody that's watching this is, don't give up, because it doesn't matter how many times it takes for you to get it right. That one time is the only one that matters. And that's what I had to learn, that I don't have a lot of control over what I did yesterday. I can only control today, and what happens from here on forward. So, if you could take the time to honestly just establish, your awareness in life and find self-motivation again. I did it through going to the gym and going to church, and finding God again, and just, if you can find things that have meaning to you again, there is hope. I mean, it's a blessing, honestly. It's a humbling experience, and it's a blessing to come clean and be around clean people and see the love in the world that the world has to give again, because as an addict, you don't see that love anymore, and I know that personally, and you basically give up, and there's no point in that, because addicts have so much to offer this world. I just started my own electrical business. It's right now in Alabama. I'm getting my Florida license April 18th, and I will be licensed in 5 states, as of April 18th. So I plan on expanding through all 5 states and constantly growing. So if for 1 second you don't think that you have to offer something in this world, don't ever think that, because I'm constantly just looking for myself to get better and do better, be better, help people along the way. I just hope that my message can go to somebody and lift somebody's spirits just enough to where it can get to the next person. Anyways, thank you.
I am a survivor.
Hi, I'm Anthony, and I'm a survivor.
Lacey's story shows what drugs can do at a young age, but also it shows many years down the road what God can do in the middle of a storm many people go through.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Lacey Wilkie. I am an Alberta girl. I was raised right here in the town of Alberta. I went to school with Werner. He was one of my classmates. Grew up with him. We did everything together. As far as school goes, we were classmates. So he's definitely a huge part of my childhood, and that's why I'm here today, is to share my story and getting the word out about, addiction and how destructive it can be, and recovery, and how beautiful recovery can be. So I'm just going to kind of start with my story. Talk about, how I got to where I was in addiction. I was very much so lost in that, my drug of choice, and this is kind of hard to talk about, honestly. This is my first time putting it on film, you know what I mean, and saying how bad I was struggling at one point in my life, but I'm doing it for a reason, because I believe that there can be a beautiful outcome if you just say no to drugs. I know that sounds really cliche, but anyways. So I started experimenting with drugs whenever I was 13 years old. I was, the girl hanging out smoking pot underneath the bleachers with all of my friends, and that led to, trying ecstasy and Adderall and just anything and everything that you could think of. I was more like a weekend partier whenever I was a kid. So 13, 14, 15, all the way up, I was, a weekend partier, and I didn't consider myself to have like an addiction. I did all the normal things. I went to work. I interacted with my family at that point in my life, and partying was just, something we all did. We were all kids. We all hung out together, and we just partied, and it was just a part of my culture. Honestly, it was a part of my upbringing. It was a part of what everyone around me was doing, and I fell into that. No one was telling me the dangers of it. No one was pouring into me and telling me how dangerous those choices could be. And that's what I'm here today, is to hit on that. It can be so dangerous to get caught in that mindset. So by the time I was 21 years old, moving forward, that weekend partying definitely took a really, really bad turn for me. At 21 years old, I had 2 children, and by 2 different men, and God, I love my kids. I'm so thankful for my babies, and I'm so thankful that I am the mom that I am today. But in those years when they were little, it was rough, because my addiction had gotten the best of me. I had abandoned my children, and that's so hard to say that I was a mom that would do it. That's what drugs will do. So I abandoned my kids. I moved to New Orleans, and I lived there for 5 years. I lived in New Orleans for 5 years. I worked on Bourbon Street, and that's when my addiction had gotten really, really bad. At that point, whenever I was living there, I was doing methamphetamines. every single day for nearly 5 years. My routine, my normal routine was to stay up for 5 days, and then I would stay up until I just would pass out. And then I would sleep for about 24 hours, and then it was back up and off to the races, and it was extremely toxic, and that's what I did for 5 years. But y'all, I have a God story. my whole, recovery process 100% has to do with God getting involved in my situation. And he basically yanked me out of New Orleans by the hair of my head. I mean, I left that city with the clothes on my back. I left an entire apartment filled with furniture, nice furniture, clothes, jewelry, everything you could think of. I literally left that town and never went back. I came home and I couldn't afford the place that I was living in, my little apartment in Pensacola anymore. I had 2 houses. I had a house in New Orleans and I had a house in Pensacola. I was very much so a functioning drug addict at that point. I worked hard, I made good money, but I was bad off on drugs and I was not a good mom. So I come home, I can't afford my place anymore because I'm not doing the lifestyle that I was. I'm not using and, hustling in that way anymore. And I decided to humble myself, or rather I say God decided to humble me, because I went home and I went back to Alberta, Alabama, where I grew up, my roots. I went to my mom's house, I was barefooted in the yard, staring up, looking at the clouds. It was a very spiritual time in my life whenever I was beginning to go through my recovery process. Now, I never went to a rehab, but I think rehabs are amazing. And so if anyone is thinking about how they're going to go about this recovery process, we don't all have that luxury to go to a family member's house. We don't all have a safe place to go. And if you don't have a safe place to go, please get in touch with one of us at the Benjamin Werner Foundation. We know where to send you, and we can get you the help that you need. Because recovery houses are awesome. I used to work at one. I was really close with those ladies for a while. That's a whole story all for itself. But I'm talking about, I feel like it's more than just addiction as well. I want to hit on the topic of suicide, because that was something that hit our community as well whenever we were young. That happened to several of our classmates. We've lost a lot of people to addiction and to suicide. These are people that we grew up with, people that we went to school with, people that were close to us. They are sons, they are daughters, they are fathers and mothers, and it affects the community and these people so hard. And I just want to encourage anyone who is thinking about using drugs or has an addiction problem, please reach out and get help. There are people who care. There are people who will help you. You don't have to do this alone. And if you're not a person who believes in God and you're just kind of turned off to that whole spiritual thing or religion and all of that, I get that. But just don't let that stop you from reaching out to, I guess what I want to say, as far as that goes, whenever I was coming out of my addiction, I very much so did not believe in God, but I had a lot of spiritual things going on. And then as I started to get recovery underneath my belt, God started to reveal to me who he was. And I went to church every single Sunday, every single Wednesday. I took my kids, and that's how I got through my recovery process. I will say now that I'm a Christian, I believe in Jesus Christ, I am saved by the blood of Jesus, all of that, but I am not a rigid Christian like I used to be. I'm a little more relaxed in my walk with Jesus. I'm actually really happy with where we're at right now. So I guess I say all that because I feel like there's a stigma sometimes, especially with people in the addict world, and they're like, oh, we don't, we want to get sober, but this whole God thing, and it doesn't have to be so rigid. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? It can be a really cool experience. Yeah, so that's basically kind of it. Oh, also, another thing, you can have fun and be sober. You really can. It's so amazing. For an example, I went to an event last night. I didn't drink. I danced all night long. I had a wonderful time. I left the party at 10:30 at night. I was home by 11:30. I went to sleep. I got a good night's rest. I woke up. I felt good. I came here to do this interview, and it was so amazing to have a night out. And I didn't wake up with a hangover. I didn't wake up with my keys lost. with money gone, not knowing where all my stuff is. So like it's really awesome actually to get out there and have a good time and do it sober and wake up in the morning and like, hey, go hit the gym, like go do something positive, you know what I mean? Like you can have a good time with your life. And also I want to talk about following Jesus. Like he has led me down an amazing path. I've worked really hard at waitressing at a restaurant for 7 years, and now I'm entering into photography and film. And so just following him and letting him lead me and guide me and direct me has been wonderful. And yeah, oh, another thing I want to say is when you stop using, like bad stuff stops happening to you. You know what I mean? Like if you're like using, you got all this like weird karma, you know what I mean? Like all that actually stops. And like you start like reaping a good karma, a good harvest, good things start coming into your life. Now I will tell you this, it's not all a bed of roses. You don't get sober and then, you know, like everything just magically is wonderful. That's not what happens, okay? But you will start to bring in good things into your life. You will start to attract goodness. So yeah, stop using, let the good stuff start coming in. Disclaimer, I cannot take any credit for the way that my life has turned out. From going from being on drugs to being the person that I am now, I owe it all to God the Father, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ. I literally cannot take any credit for it. I just can't. Like he did it. This was his plan, this was his purpose. I did get in alignment. I did follow him. I did listen. I did pay attention to what he was saying and the leading and the calling that he had on my life. And y'all, I've been a heathen. Okay, so he's been real patient with me. Because I've not been perfect in this process, okay? I've been not perfect in this process. But I do try. I will give you that. And so, yeah, and I think that that's going to close me out.
I'm Troy and I'm a survivor.
Hi, I am Cynthia and I am a survivor.
Hey, I'm Kyle and I'm a survivor.
Hey guys, I'm Joshua Woodruff and I'm a survivor.
Lastly, I would like to introduce Destiny. For such a young woman, she has been through a lot, but she has overcame it all.
My name is Destiny Kinsey, and I'm 23 years old. I have a 7-year-old daughter. I got pregnant at 15. And my drug of choice was meth. When I had my daughter, 5 months after I had her, I started meth with this girl that I was dating. I'd been with her for a very long time. And we started meth, and I quit breastfeeding so that I could smoke meth. So when I started meth, it got really, really bad. It started out like a weekend thing, clearly, like I think almost everybody does, where they say that it won't get that bad, and then it did. My addiction was so bad that I got down to 82 pounds. I missed my daughter's first steps. I don't remember them. First Christmas. I don't remember any of that. I blocked out like so much when I was in active addiction. I don't remember any of that. My grandma and my mom helped me raise my daughter while I was doing what I wanted. To support my addiction, I would steal things from my grandparents' house and pawn them to supply my addiction. And the things were very, very important things to my grandpa that we had collected as I was growing up. I would pawn them for drugs. And this entire time I'm still in school. I have no idea how I'm making it. I graduated high school in 2017, and more than half of the class that I graduated was on meth, and it was really hard. That night at graduation, I remember my grandma really excited. And she wanted to go out to eat and celebrate. All I wanted to do was go home and smoke meth. And so I did. Growing up, my dad, he was on meth my entire life. He drove an 18-wheeler, and that seemed to be the only way that he could stay awake. And by the time that I was 17, I was smoking with my dad. So that night at graduation, I left and I smoked with my dad. It was really so weird doing drugs with your parents. It was very weird. But in a way, we have a relationship that is better than it ever was. He's 4 years sober, and I'm going on 3 years sober. And out of my family right now, he's the closest one that I have. He understands what it was like, whereas the rest of my family doesn't. They understand what it was like being the family member, but they don't understand what it was like living it. Only my dad. And I love him. My daughter is 7 years old now, and she's literally my best friend. And I'm blessed to have her. She didn't always have, the version of me that I am now. By the time that she was a year old, my addiction was so bad that my family had kicked us out. And we lived in my truck because we had nowhere to go. Lived in my truck for a year, almost a full year. December 17th, 2017. I had gotten pulled over, and I clearly had drugs on me, and my daughter in the back seat, and I got chemical endangerment. I got a lot of charges that night, and I lost custody of my daughter. Spent the next 4 years trying to get custody of her back. I remember that night having to put my daughter in a cop car to let her go to DHI, wherever she was going, and I went to jail. When I got out, I tried to do better, but it didn't work. It just spiraled into something worse. I had nowhere to go, so I stayed in this house that everybody stayed in to get high. And it was really bad. There were bugs everywhere. I remember sleeping on the couch with literal roaches. We didn't have food. I don't know how we had money to supply our addiction. I didn't speak to my daughter. I didn't. It was so long that by the time I got back, she didn't call me Mom, she called me Destiny. And that hurt more than anything out of the entire addiction, to have your daughter call you Destiny. So we stayed in that house for a year, and I felt like I wanted to save everyone there. I loved them. I knew that what we were going through was bigger than anybody else there could think of. I've always believed in God, and I knew that He could help them. I knew He could, but they didn't want it, so I had to leave them. And I went to rehab, and I tried to do better, and I prayed for them all the time. When I got out of rehab, I relapsed. And that crushed my grandma, as she was the one who paid for rehab. She wanted me to do better. When I got out of rehab, all of the people that I prayed so hard for were in rehab. So God does, He hears you. He does. But I was back in that wheel again, you know, doing the same old thing, and so it got worse, worse than I could have ever imagined. I was with this guy who was extremely abusive, and he did horrible things. I would call the cops all the time, and they would just let him leave for the night, and he would come back, and it would be worse than the day before. But we were on drugs together, and I thought that the only reason he was like that is because of meth. And so I hated it. I hated the drugs so bad, and at that point I had missed so much of my daughter's life. I had missed family memories. I had missed Easters, Christmases. I had missed birthdays, my own birthdays. I missed so much that I just hated it. I didn't want to be in that like hamster wheel again, you know, where you're just pretty much locked in. I was stuck, and I didn't want to be stuck anymore. I hated it. I hit my knees. I know exactly where I hit my knees now too. You know, on my barn room. It's a dirt road. I hit my knees, and I remember screaming and crying and asking God to please take whatever is inside of me that wants this drug and kill it. And if you can't do that, then God, please kill me. Take me out of here. Take it away. And almost instantly, the next day, I woke up, and it was literally just like that. I didn't want it anymore. And 3 years later, I've never had a craving. A year after being sober, a year, I got custody of my daughter back. Full custody. My family knows God. We go to church every Sunday. My daughter is so smart. She's in first grade. And we go on vacations all the time. And every single time that I'm on vacation, I cry because I never thought that I would be here. I never thought that I would. I didn't think that I would. And I was so happy to be able to give her this life that I didn't have growing up. And that's all that I wanted for her, was to have a better life than I did. And she does now, because God saved me. All you have to do is cry out to Him and mean it. And God is there. I really never thought that I would be here right now doing any of this. But here I am.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones that can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones that can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Please speak up for the ones who can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones who can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones that can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones that can't.
Your discomfort is our reality. Speak up for the ones who can't.